Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. So glad to be here. The show is Who Am I? Who am I? And I was just thinking in my own mind there what the meaning of this show is for me. I could tell you how it started, but it's kind of a boring story. I don't know really I say I have an agenda and I say I have a thesis. And then I have different words and definitions for concepts that I bring out, try to describe to you, and then try to connect them for you. And then I say that there's actually there's purpose for what I do. Twofold. One is to bring peace on earth, goodwill to men all over the planet, so that we understand ourselves. Because I think that would be great. Sort of like a diplomacy kind of thing. Hey, people. I know it looks like we're enemies, but this is really what's going on. And if we want to be effective, successful, and sustainable in this world, we need to ponder our situation from this vantage point for a moment before we keep acting. Okay, now we see what we are. Now we realize, okay, it isn't a win-lose paradigm, people. It's a win-win paradigm. But you have to set it up in your consciousness that way. You have to realize you have to put it up there in the very top of the operating system. Right where the primary assumptions go. Primary assumptions are the things that you assume about the universe because that's just the way it is. Like everything's here and now, and the all are one and the one is all, and you exist, and everything changes except for the rules. And then the one rule that's actionable is what you put out is what you get back. And there's nothing you can do to change that. Now, you can argue about whether that's true or not, and the whole time that you are arguing that it's not true, I guarantee you will not be able to see it. So for you, it will not be true. And the universe will support you in that belief. But the fact is it really is true. The universe is a big reflection. It's all like this fractal reflection of the wholeness. But it's running on the frequency that you are running on, or at least the view of it for you is running on the frequency that you're running on. What you put out is what you get back. It's like Bashar says when he talks about, it's like a big mirror. If you want it to smile at you, you can't get in there and try to force it to smile. You aren't from the outside getting the conditions out there to smile. When you smile inside your own state of being, the universe will smile back at you, and it will support you in that belief. That belief that all is kind and all is connected and all is love, and the paradigm is win-win. And so actually, in any given situation, the aiming point that you should always be looking for is the win-win. The win-win-win-win-win-win-win. Because there's a place where pretty much the whole heart of life can win. And anyone who doesn't win, who falls off the edges, it's because they aren't plugged properly into the wholeness. And they just fall off on the edges. They cease to be. But their spirit, the fire of their spirit moves on. And the continuum of their intention moves on. The center of their spin, continues. You exist. You're never going to wink out of existence. So don't worry about that. What could happen, and don't worry about this either, because I believe this feels really good because you're still doing it from your own center. You might melt into the wholeness of everything around you, and have maybe a moment where it's hard for you to distinguish yourself from everything around you. But you are still you, and from what I believe that's still going to feel just fine, To feel one with everything probably feels a lot better than the way human beings feel most of the time, which is isolated and separated. The thing is in a way, I am very isolated and very separated. Now, to be fair, I have enough material resources to pay the rent and put groceries in the refrigerator for the rest of my life, unless big systems, crumble to the ground. I don't think they need to. In order for us to reorganize in our higher self, our higher state, I don't think everything has to completely disintegrate. What happens first, I think, is there is an injection of energy into the system. And it puts the 8 billion people to work in a way that they want to, a way that you choose. If you had all of the energy that you needed to do whatever you could imagine yourself doing, can you see where you might start? First of all, the most important thing to have would be the hard technology, the technology itself, because now the energy is no longer an issue. So now, but stuff becomes easier to get too, because honestly, the energy is no longer an issue. I also think that at some point, well, you know what? As I think some of these things, sometimes I'm assuming still a paradigm of separation. We really need to get to a place where in consciousness, we understand collectively that we just are one. Even if I'm hermitized over here by myself, just me and my spouse is almost all I ever see. I have some twins. They have significant others. And then I have a blood grandson, and my husband has 2 blood grandsons. So we have 3 grandsons. Now, the only reason I brought those others in is because I don't want to say I only have 1 grandson, but he's the only one I see on a regular basis because they live here in the same town. I have sisters that I see sometimes. I have a brother. And I have a few people that I'm on a bowling league, and my husband and I play golf. I go to the store. So I see people and stuff, but I'm not a joiner. I'm sort of self-hermitized. But what I'm saying is it doesn't matter how physically you are not connected to all the people around you. If you'd get it in your head that you are absolutely connected to everybody around you, like it or not, we are all matrixed together. Get used to that word, because that's going to be a word that I use fairly frequently, because it is important. Mathematically, it's important. Conceptually, it's important. Physically, spiritually, it's important. It's the basis of the holographic nature of us all. We're all connected. There is nothing. What you do affects the field, and I am the field. Now, what you do affects where you are in a bigger way than, it's some levels removed to where I am. You have... Let's not get ahead of myself. I just don't want to... you have control over your journey, let's say. How you navigate the waters of the field. You have absolute control over that. And what frequency you are transmitting and receiving as you go your merry way flowing down the waters of life, or however you want to put this, through the labyrinth, flowing through the labyrinth of choices, and you're in the field. You have control over your journey by virtue of what frequency you're on as you move. So we are indeed designed to go into the negative states of emotion, but what we're supposed to understand is that is a sort of a warning sign as your car, it hits the shoulder of the road and you feel that rumble strip warning you, hey, wake up. Or the thing in the center, actually it's the one off the side, that's telling you you're getting ready to go off into the weeds. But see, we aren't raised to understand that. We don't know that the point of it is joy. We actually have been taught that the point of it is pain. It's testing. We're being tested here in this world of pain, the veil of tears and all that. That's what we're taught. We're taught that the pain is natural, that it's normal. And in a sense it is. I mean, don't think that it's aberrant or abnormal. Ooh, there's something gone terribly, terribly wrong. I'm in a state of negative emotion. No. It's nothing like that. Your equipment is designed to go into the negative emotion. But you're not supposed to take that as normal. You're not supposed to go, oh, well, that's just what it is. It's just bad. Things are bad. Life is bad. I'm sad. I'm mad. It's all normal. I'm locked on, my focus is locked onto the physical world. And that's what I think is primary. So I'm locked onto the physical world, and I don't, and it's carrying me in different places based on whether I am pleased with what I see and I'm experiencing, or whether I'm not pleased with what I see and what I'm experiencing. And I'm just, I've been taught to do that. As a person in a material paradigm, I think this started with science, when science came into the field, because science was relegated to the world of the material. The church and science sort of split up the universe and said, okay, we'll talk about the spiritual stuff and you talk about the physical stuff all you want. And so science has been relegated to, okay, my job is talking about the physical world. And that's all I get to talk about. Well, now we come to the place where we realize that actually spirituality is just the physics of the physical world that we didn't understand, So who am I? This is a beautiful question. It's a beautiful question. How does my equipment even function? What is this? What is negative emotion? Who is my negative self? And when I misunderstand my negative self and act upon her or him, act on him, what is the consequence to the field? And how does it explain evil and wickedness? And how does it explain my own experience? How do my emotions explain my experience? You think that your experience is being caused because, well, you're observing the material world. When you like it, you're in a state of happy emotion. When you don't like it, you're in a state of unhappy emotion. And then when you're in a state of unhappy emotion and you recognize things in the physical world that you don't like, you think that the mission is to resist this thing I don't like, maybe confront it, throw myself directly against it, try to change the condition, force the condition to change, and then when the condition changes, then I can smile. And actually, this is not the way the universe works. This is not the way the universe works. There is actually so much support and potential in so many different directions. It will support what you believe no matter what universe it throws you into. You know, the universe is so diverse, it can support me experiencing a paradigm where Earth makes it, and you, if you want to, experience a paradigm where Earth does not make it. You know, if you really want to go, I mean, I think that it has to do with, now I don't want to give everybody carte blanche to think that, oh, well, that means that I can just do whatever, and it doesn't affect my favorite grandma over here who is actually living out whatever she wants. Every choice is possible. But when you realize every choice is possible, and then you see what the setup really is, you are not your negative self. You aren't your negative self. You are your positive self. You're here for joy. You're here for the fun of it. There is a you inside of you that is playful. That is playful. And she wants to come out and play. But she's very tender. And she notices that the world, she peeps out and she sees that the world is still kind of crazy town out there. And only the love is real. Only the love is real. If you would train yourself to focus only on your own love, the love itself, forget about, let the specifics of the materiality sort of blur into the background so that they can change. If you have locked on to a view of specifically what is specifics in materiality around you, specifically, you're locked onto that materiality, and you believe in your heart that it's primary and that it's fixed and that it doesn't change and that it's the main thing that matters, then the world unfolds in a particular way for you. And the objects in your, if you would care less about the objects around you, they would loosen up. And good things could flow to you, and things that are not relevant could flow away from you. We are all in a state of motion. We're all in a state of spin, actually, because spin is the fundamental force. It's like it's the fundamental force with a capital T with a capital F. These Planck oscillators, these vacuum fluctuations are what we are made of, and each and every one of them is a teeny weeny eeny bitsy itsy witsy teeny beeny frequency. And the 0 point energy field, think of that as the fabric of the world. Think of that as the fabric of the world. The fabric of the world is made of these Planck oscillators. Just the 0 point energy field is all of these Planck oscillators just touching each other and jiggling together. And when they organize, they start spinning together. And it's like the whole universe is made of this plasma, this fluid, dynamic plasma. And it's all these Planck oscillators, which have every oscillator has the potential to go into spin, to either spin from its own center or join others in their spinning, like the water molecules joining the spin in a vortex of like a whirlpool or a bathtub drain, a maelstrom. So things are... So who am I? Well, I'll tell you what, you are two spins. One of them is your own, and the other one is source energy. It's connected to all things, and you can't really change that one. The only one you can change is the one that you are individually, specifically, and physically. In your physical body, the physical piece of the field that you are in charge of. That's the only thing you have any say-so. Now, the other one is vibrationally you, connected to all things, and also a spin. I think it's the primordial spin, the original spin that you are spinning with, and it's pure positive, forward, dynamic. It's your lifeline to all energy. It is the 0 point energy field itself, which is all the Plancks jiggling all together all the time. At any point in the field, it has, even when it is not organized into matter, when it's just at rest, it's a dynamic of almost unlimited, almost infinite energy available everywhere. There is no place where there is nothing. There is no place where there is no energy. There is no place where the hologram does not live. It's like so cool. It's so cool, the universe that we have been born into, that we have coalesced our beings into. And we are supposed to be joyful. We are supposed to be playful. And that state of negative emotion, when you feel the negative emotion, you're supposed to understand that two things have just happened. One, fair enough, you just observed something in the physical universe that you feel off to you somehow. It's out of alignment with who you believe you are, or it's something that you did not enjoy when you saw it. And that's fair. You don't have to enjoy murder, rape, pillage, destruction. You do not have to enjoy Shiva energy as she plays out in the world of destruction and tears down the things that we create that weren't sustainable in the first place. And they caused suffering amongst the people because people fell through the cracks, and their needs were not met, and they couldn't feed their children, and they could not shelter themselves or their children, and they felt bad, and they felt angry, and they felt frightened, and they thought that person was to blame, and so they went out and they made war, and they dropped bombs, and they, whatever. Shiva energy is not, it's not something that I would recommend. I would recommend that we understand how this energy field, how the negative energy field is born within us and in our systems, so that we can expel it, so that we can be the peaceful, cooperative, trusting, loving, playful organisms that we were meant to be, co-creating with the rest of the biofield on the planet, and re-gardening planet Eden as we should be, creating heaven on earth. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to figure this out, or we're not going to be able to live with 10, 11, 12 billion people. Who knows what it's going to be? It's really all right. It's all right for more children to be born. I used to be really, 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 really cognizant of the growing population, and believing it was a finite pie. I thought that, this is the end. We have to do something, or humanity is doomed, I don't believe that anymore. I think what needs to happen is we need to understand the abundance/scarcity paradigm stick. It's almost, the abundance scarcity thing is almost like the two ends of the stick that Abraham talks about. Every subject is really like a stick with two ends of it. And which end of the stick of the subject are you really thinking about? Because if you would think about what you want, you would get what you want. But you're not thinking about what you want. You're thinking about the fact that what you want isn't here. And I want what I want, and I don't see it. That's what you're thinking about. And that's different than thinking about what you want. Can you feel that in your spirit? Can you feel it in your gut, the difference between those two things, that it's a vibrational difference? It's not a subject difference. It's a vibrational difference. Where are you coming from? Are you coming from a place where within your solar plexus you feel a sensation of trust and wholeness and eager anticipation for what's coming, because you know that you're blessed and you're good and you're in a paradigm that's expanding and everything's going to be fine because you were part of the allness, and you're looking for the signs. You know that it's working out for you, but maybe it's harder to see that everything is working out for you if your house just burned down. But I promise you, whatever is happening to you, it is all to your good. And my theory is that the primary thing that we all have to learn first is, who are we? And every lesson in our life is to that end until we get that lesson. As soon as we get that lesson, then we can use that information and go forth into the physical spaces and manifest, and use it to help us manifest intentionally, consciously, a rolling a physical manifestation that we would more prefer. In other words, peace instead of war, abundance instead of scarcity, abundance instead of poverty, all of that sort of, life instead of crawling, rotting death, that sort of thing. I want someday in my lifetime, wouldn't that be great? And I need to live long enough to make this happen. And I want to help it happen. But I would like to live on a planet where at some point the news starts telling me every day of new species that are popping up all over the planet. Delightful, playful, gorgeous, trusting, happy souls everywhere. And human beings don't have to immediately capture them and sell them on a black market to greedy billionaires' wives, who are collecting such things. Because there's so many and so much, and everybody has so much, and no longer is anybody on the edges of it killing the last bits of the cool parts in order to capitalize, in order to get a share of the energy force that is mankind. Get on the supply chain so that you can have either an energy supply or, cool food or Coca-Cola, or an iPad or a cell phone, or all the things that it means to when you are a human being on planet Earth in this time. What does that mean? It means I have access to all kinds of goods, and it comes to me through Amazon or the U.S. Postal Service, or FedEx, or USPS. Oh, I guess that's the Postal Service. UPS, that's the one I meant. Or, there's what's that other one? I can't think of it quickly, and it doesn't matter. And all over the world, there's going to be, other DHL. That was the one I was thinking of. There's other services too. I'm sure internally within China, they have to use a nationalized Chinese distribution service, and also that makes sure that those who run the government stay in control of the collective, the collective that we are, the collective force that we are, the energy force that we are, what the policies, what the spirit of it, what we get to control it. Anyway, centralized power is not going to be as centralized and powerful when every human being across the planet immediately or almost immediately has access to free, clean, almost unlimited energy. Energy that in and of itself does not kill the planet, by virtue of the fact that the way we got it was by digging it up out of the ground and piping it across. There's so many parts. This is a little dance I always say. Digging it up out of the ground and piping it across sacred aquifers to refineries at the coasts, and then put onto oil tankers and sent across heaving seas to foreign markets. Or worse, like the Gulf, the drilling within the oceans, off the coast of Santa Barbara, off the coast, all over in the Gulf of Mexico. It's a travesty, and we should stop it immediately. But we're not doing that, because the whole paradigm is sort of built on, all of the cogs and wheels of the factory that is humanity has been allowed to get to a momentum where that's what all the infrastructure is. Everybody just expects this now. Oh, I need to save up and buy a car that's going to use gas. And if it doesn't use gas, okay, well, let's have it be an electric car. But, all of that electric power, it's all centralized. It does not have to be. It doesn't have to be. I'm preaching, this is the physical aspect of my agenda. I can get into non-resistant places, and actually I'm resisting the notion that this is what it has to be. I'm actually not resistant to any there is no us and them. There's no culprit out there, even though there is indeed many conspiracies out there. Don't worry about it. Conspiracies aren't really a problem. Conspiracies just means people are getting together in collective groups, and they get a hold of the wrong information, and they're attacking the field from a misaligned position. Maybe they're thinking win-lose. They're thinking paradigm of separation and conflict and what's the other word? Competition, And then they furtively tap their fingers together and resonate with one another in their dark thoughts about whatever. Don't worry about it. The conspiracies do not matter. Not even the conspiracies of those few people at the very top who actually do control all of the hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of future economic activity, all represented by the fossil fuel supply left on planet Earth that they control. They control the industry because they know the business. They have hired all the geologists. They're the ones who understand the equipment because they're the ones who've been working with it for the last 150 years. They're the ones who developed it. So they would be the ones who would petition our government for a license to go drill in the Arctic or drill more in, the Democrats if I'm a Democrat still, but I am no longer do I generally believe that either party is going to save anybody. Both of them are quite deeply locked, and the situation sort of forces them to. The way that our forefathers designed the way that we decide who leads the country is very competitive, and it sort of puts an us and them spin on everything, and it invites factions, which, by the way, they were concerned about factions to begin with. They were hoping that the factions wouldn't take over. Well, factions have absolutely taken over. Each party is like a faction, and there's no system of finding the unity. It sort of emphasizes our differences instead. And then we sort of, our emotions get in. I think all of this, everything, all of our problems come from us not knowing who we are. And that's why I do the show. Who am I? Who am I? I believe it comes from two prongs. One is a psychological thing, when we understand our negative self and we understand our own positive and negative emotions, so that we understand that we actually are the positive person. And we really are supposed to stay there in that positive place. And our state of being actually turns out to not necessarily be a slave to the conditions that are immediately surrounding you, because you have a brain that can comprehend that you exist in a larger frame. And so the way to supersede an emotionally crippling condition. You have a condition where something around you has gone very wrong. Your house is burned down. That's my go-to example. How do you stay cheerful when your house just burned down? How do you find the place where? So I have this plaque on my dashboard, because I've listened to thousands and thousands of the Abraham videos. Not just thousands of the videos, but back when you used to be able to get them, I listened to many 7, 8, 9, 10 hour full seminars, and then I went on one Abraham cruise, wonderful, wonderful cruise. And I met, I think the reason that I went there for two reasons. I needed to see her. I needed to experience physically, I needed to experience what that whole thing was like. And then I met a young man who was my butler in the suite that I booked, because I did this by myself. I went by myself. My husband didn't want to go with me. He's not interested in things like this, and he's not interested in cruises, and he just didn't want to do it. And he thought that it was important that I do it alone anyway, because I don't do many things all by myself, and I don't even drive much anymore because my eyesight is going. I have an eye condition called Stargardt's disease that's taking my eyesight away. I wish I could figure out how to reprogram my eyesight, so that get my eye cells back into higher level of coherency. I'm not sure exactly how to do that. I have faith that it's possible. I'm not really focused that direction right now. I'm just I'd like to focus on this show for a little while. It seems really important to me, this show. So the other prong of the puzzle is, the first one is psychological, and the second one is we need to get on to a better energy source. It is causing our financial situation to be more and more and more lackful. Have you noticed all the young people have such a hard time summoning enough wealth to themselves to, pay for a decent life, not just, some crummy apartment that they can keep, and stay just one step ahead of but to have a nice house and a car that is dependable, and, put the grandchild into a nice school. a Montessori school or something like that. Or actually, I'm not really dissing public schools, and the idealistic dream of public schools. Mostly, I'm talking idealistically. I speak from a place of complete non-resistance, from a place that sort of assumes that we are evolving, we are expanding, we're just fine, we're doing all right. We should have a little more faith, but have faith and then also understand the paradigm that you are actually in. It's really important to understand your negative and positive self, because when you don't understand this and you lock onto the condition instead, and you think your negative self is valid because I'm so upset at that physical condition, and then you act from your negative self, you don't realize what you're doing. You don't realize that you're creating a kind of a negative shockwave that moves out through the collective quantum field that we all share. And now it's sitting out there as, I call it, Shiva energy. I call it a lot of things. I try to call it as many things as I can so that you start to see what it is I'm saying and don't get all fixated on the words that I'm using to say it. Shiva energy, Loki energy, demonic energy. It's idle hands are the devil's workshop, but it's when all that, it occurs when human beings don't have adequate gainful employment for their activities. They aren't busy enough doing positive things. But they shouldn't just be doing busy work. We should be getting on with building the planet that we're looking for, the one that's sustainable. When we build systems that aren't sustainable, then the stresses that occur on the edges because of that unsustainable factor, it causes people to fall through the cracks. They aren't covered. Not everybody has food. Not everybody has shelter. Not everybody has adequate resources. There is no reason why we should. It doesn't need to be such a tooth and claw kind of setup. It's only that setup when we imagine it to be that setup. It actually isn't as malicious out there as we think of it as. Even in Africa, the harshness of it there was sort of a benign. It wasn't a malicious order. It was harsh over there, but it was not malicious. The bees were a little harsher. They weren't the gentle, mild European honeybees. True. The elephants were not tameable. The lions, yeah, they ate the other creatures. Yes, it's true. But when the lions weren't hungry, the other creatures weren't, like plotting to, get rid of the lions because, they're bad or whatever, and it's us against them. As a matter of fact, the lions would sit or sleep, with the antelope grazing around. It's only a hungry lion, only a hunting lion you need to worry about. And even then, it's not done maliciously. And overall, it actually, over time, it made the whole setup so beautiful and vibrant and alive. It was wonderful to see the living world. The vibrant, all of the pieces still there. The predators and the vegetarians and all of the different colors of birds and the chameleons in the bushes and the trees, and it was just, and I was young when we went there. I was 12 and like 14 when I came back. And at 17, I went back and spent the summer. But when I was young and observing the difference between Africa and America, where I had come from, what I noticed was that I wouldn't have traded the danger. I wouldn't have wanted it to be safe. You don't want it to be safe. You really don't. You want it to be, it just made you more awake. It kept you focused. It made you more alive. You know, it was so much more interesting. Everywhere you looked, there was something, you know, something interesting. Anyway, so who am I? Who am I? And how is my understanding of who am I gonna fix everything? Well, how it fixes it for you is you recognize that your life, the whole world is not up to you, but your life absolutely is. And there is everything to rendezvous with out there. And if you don't want to rendezvous with everything, that's fine. Actually, the very first order of business, I was going to change these slides because I have all these, and then I forgot, and I'm already 46 minutes in, and that's the first change I've made. So my claim is that if you understand yourself, if we understand ourselves, then everything is going to right itself. If we understand who we are, what our general equipment is, who I am as a human being, who am I as a vibrational creator, who am I as an eternal continuum of intention and desire, who am I as the whole field connected to the whole field, because that's what I am. Now, so you are all these different layers. But so, of course, I'm not saying you aren't a specific physical person, because you absolutely are. You are. And this physical specific person has equipment that when you take your thoughts into places that do not resonate with what your greater self knows to be true about the greater frame that you abide within, you get a hit of negative emotion. So when you observe something that you do not like and you feel negative emotion about it, the only thing that has happened, now it's still true, you don't have to like that. What it might be telling you is you're seeing something and inside of yourself you say, I'm not saying you do this consciously, inside of yourself you say, this is not me. And so it doesn't resonate with your greater being. But you're translating it as, there's a condition out there that until that changes, I can't feel good. That's the problem. That is a misunderstanding of who we are and what we are here for. You're not here to look around until something makes you feel bad, and then now that's your assignment. Go out and make that better so that you can feel good. Although there might end up, you can almost see that there roundabouts, there's gonna be a piece of that, because we are improvement creating machines. We are misalignment identifying machines, because whenever you observe something and you get that hit of negative emotion, that in itself has identified something out in the field that's out of alignment. However, it is not necessary for you to stay in the state of negative emotion. If you would trust yourself, you would know yourself, if you would believe in yourself, if you'd quit dissing yourself, if you'd quit putting yourself down, your positive self would be a lot stronger, and you would actually be a lot more trustable if you'd quit dissing yourself about not being trustworthy or whatever things that you did. People putting themselves down, cutting themselves to pieces internally with their own internal thoughts is the worst. It's the most destructive thing that human beings do to that. It cripples us. It's self-hobbling. You know, it's easy to control human beings because all you have to do is get us to turn our rather amazing, powerful selves, our negative self, turn our negative self against ourselves, and all of a sudden we're helpless. If you'd stop doing that, if you would recognize that there is a goodness inside of you, it really is, when you feel truly happy or even satisfied, contented, there's a neutral place about it too that's not particularly, it's not banging off the walls in any way, but you are plugged into source when you have hit this neutral place where at least you are not negative. A lot of Abraham's processes point at different ways to get you to pull away from your negative self and start being more from your positive self. Understand who you really are. Who you really are is the positive self. Only the love is real. The rest of it is a function of you having crossed your own energy stream within this body vehicle that you are driving in this lifetime that I call the HBV. You're driving this vehicle, the human being vehicle. Now, I also have things to say about where that vehicle came from. Why are we driving this machine? And why does it have such interesting capabilities to sing to the quantum field? It absolutely does. Our emotions, when you recognize, oh, this is who I really am, and oh, look at how my equipment works. Whenever I go into a state of negative emotion, okay, it does mean that there's a condition out there that I do not prefer. Granted, don't argue about that. There's nothing, you don't resist that. There's no problem with that. Yes, okay. And yes, it's true that if it's a problem, I probably want a solution. Not a problem because Source covers that. Step 1, you ask. Step 2, Source answers. Step 3, you just gotta right in rhythm know that Source has answered you. Now where's the answer? Things are always working out for me. What's the frame I need to find that I pick up that data and information correctly so I know what the next step to do and the next step and the next step and the next step? Because as Bashar says, Bashar defines abundance as your ability to have everything that you need to hand, or your ability to take the next step that you need to take in the motion forward that you are engaged in. That's what abundance equals. Abundance equals your ability to take the next step. You're not stymied. You haven't gotten into a place where I want this, but I can't have it, so I'm just gonna sit still. I can't do the thing I want to do, so I'm just... And my negative emotion starts growing because I'm not this... You need to understand your equipment. As soon as we understand our equipment, we're going to quit fighting with each other. And as soon as we understand source energy, we're all going to have all the energy that we need at our fingertips. Anyone, whether you're in the jungles of Guyana, whether you're on the savannah of the Serengeti, whether you're in Antarctica or up at the North Pole, it doesn't matter whether you're in the South Pacific, you will have all the energy that you need. All the energy that you that you need to do whatever you want to do. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to have more collective groups in their little pods are going to go off into the spaces, and they're going to try to grow food, and there's going to be communes, there's going to be cults, there's going to be all kinds of things that are going to occur. Now, when that occurs, and some of them might even be violent, there's also going to be missionary work that's going to happen between the pods. Oh man, this is great. I shouldn't be giving this away on Who Am I? I should be writing this into a freaking novel because it's just the coolest thing. You can see what the world would look like. And so I can see what the world would look like, what's coming up. I could design a situation and write a story in the middle of it. The problem is I'm not actually an author. Maybe I could become one. Find the way to craft the words, build the story. Right now, I just want to get this information out. Who am I? So that the us and us versus them paradigm dissolves. We are not in competition with one another. We are in full-blown cooperative co-creation with one another. And we need each other. Humanity needs... I don't know how to grow, marshmallows. Of course, I don't need marshmallows. I was just, thinking of... I don't know how to weave clothing. Any of the clothing that somebody else wove it. There's the technologies exist scattered around us. We need to pull it all together. But we don't need to do it by edict from the outside with an authoritarian at the helm ordering the parts. That is one way to do it. That is one way to get things done. And if the kingdom is if the king is relatively in alignment with his own soul and his own source, then the kingdom isn't that off. But the king always, has some sort of a psychotic son or grandson or whatever who ends up taking the throne at some point. And so those kinds of kingdoms, that paradigm does not work. And that's not the sustainability of the future. That's not what's going to happen. It's going to lie in diversity, in immense diversity. And we're going to finally see, oh, that is who we are, isn't it? And that is how it works. Okay, this will be fun. And then we all get together and we recreate an incredible abundance on planet Earth. An incredible abundance. It is in our future. I don't know how far in our future. It all depends on how quickly we can get this. I believe already our government somewhere has squirreled away information that it has already taken from people who have already invented devices that called over unity devices that put out more energy than they take to run. And I'm sure this information still is out there somewhere. It absolutely exists. But maybe the people, the information can be recreated in different ways. The big news story to get out would be, hey people, over unity devices are possible. Which means we don't have to be on fossil fuel. Now, of course, our government and our commercial setup and situation is never going to broadcast a message like that because it will rock the very foundation of all of our systems. And certainly the status quo of all of our systems. Our centralized power, our centralized energy and our centralized power, our centralized communication, our centralized, well, we have all these systems, and the systems in some way are going to keep going. We're going to still have distribution systems and communication systems and energy production systems. The energy production is going to be different, though, and there's still going to be having to be the manufacturing of goods. And then services will still absolutely, things that human beings do for one another, nails and massages and, resort recreational activities. And what'll probably end up doing is at some point, you have this system of, so if you are in a crap job, if you're in a bad job, that's uncomfortable and you don't have as comfortable of a life, then you I'm sorry, I'm getting into the weeds. I don't want to get into the weeds here. That should be for another day. I will take note that I just passed the hour mark about a minute ago. So I don't know how long I want to keep going. It all depends. Let's see, what time is it? It's 6 o'clock, 6:01. I must have started almost exactly at 5 o'clock. Interesting. So where am I in this discussion? Oh yeah, I brought up over Unity devices. This is important because this will be the bridge until we figure out exactly how to link up to source energy. But the first thing is you got to understand that there is a source energy. What is this source energy? The source energy is everything connecting to everything all the time through this cosmic jiggle of space-time. All of the Plancks touching one another. Where they aren't organized, we call it just the 0-point energy field. And where they are organized, where this Planck field is spinning into organization, what we call that is the material world. So when Plancks spin into little vortexes that we call, little vortices we call protons, we call that matter. That's the matter at the center of the atom. And all of the fields, so in physics, what do you got? You got the four forces: the strong force, the weak force, gravity, and electromagnetic fields. And all of these forces can be explained through spin. As when these Plancks organize, when they go into spin, and what causes them to go into spin is gradient density in the field. Differences in density. Now, what created the universe in the first place was one universe, which was a black hole flinging off a proton, a particle, or Planck. I'm not sure whether it's a Planck or a proton. Probably a proton, maybe a Planck. But they're all scales of one another anyway. A proton, go down one more scale and you're at the Planck. So a universe through Hawking radiation flings out a particle from that universe. It hits another universe of when it flings out of that universe, it hits a space that is way, say that about 100 times, way less dense. And that super dense now, relative to the space around it, that particle, a super duper highly charged, highly dense particle, goes kaboom. What does that sound like? Why does it do that? Because of the difference in the densities. And now there's all this difference in density playing out across all of that. That's what That's the forces that create the universe. And it's not unique. It's not unique. Now it looks like universes, there's foaming universes. There's all the universes you could possibly ever want, need, or use. There's so much life. There's so many possibilities. Your mind just, your jaw drops, your eyes pop, and you boggle for a minute. So just boggle there for a minute. Wow. The universe is so cool. It's so cool. And it's all kind of mental anyway. You're driving it from your consciousness, from the seat of your consciousness. That's the bridge of your starship. You know? It's not a perfect analogy because, the bridge and the starship are this, and you are all the same thing. And frankly, if you get all the way out, you and the universe are all the same thing too. It's just a big fractal reflection of, it's just the coolest thing. And if we would understand our equipment and focus that direction, we would realize that we can solve every problem that we've got. Every problem that we've got can be easily solved. Well, not easily, but can be solved. Is already solved in a way. All of the technology that we need to fix every physical problem that you could point to on the planet, we have. We can resequester carbon. We can capture it from the air and put it back in the ground. But you know what the problem is? It takes energy to do that. And right now, our energy paradigm involves the energy that we have to dig out of the ground and refine and then burn that in order to run the technology that would clean up the air. And so it's like one step forward, two steps back. It doesn't make sense. But it would make sense to use that technology if we had clean, free, source-driven energy. Or there is a degree less than that we could have, which is just over unity devices that have cleverly, they track in, somebody invented one that was tuned into the magnetic field of the planet. And as soon as he got it tuned in to the magnetic field of the planet, then it actually had a very decent output. It was outputting, enough energy to, I don't know. I'd have to go back and review that exact one. There's been devices that would run anything from, I believe that it's possible to have a device the size of a pack of cigarettes run a city or a starship, or at least my house, The possibilities, they have been keeping the possibilities from you. Who's they? Well, I don't know. It's really, that one is a conspiracy that's really hard to, get to the bottom of all the culprits who want to keep the information away from us. And some of them have done it for whatever reason. Their greed, they're in charge of the oil and they don't want to lose that power. Frankly, they will not be able to keep it back when we get to the level where we understand who we are in reference to source energy and what this source energy thing actually is. When the physics of it is truly known to our collective species, not just to a few outlying physicists over there at the International Space Federation, the Resonance Science Foundation, and Taurus Tech, and whatever. It needs to be it needs to come from the National Academy of Sciences. Our National Academy of Sciences needs to recognize that this is a branch of physics that mathematically is correct. It's correct. Now, since Nassim does not belong to the National Academy of Sciences, probably, I don't know, probably because it's a club that they won't let him in. But he has published his work. There's the paper, Origin of Mass, Nature of Gravity. This is actually one of many, many, many papers that he has published. He's got stuff on consciousness. The original stuff that was just unifying the quantum and cosmological universes, just showing that the mathematics, you can look at the statistics of the mass of the universe and extrapolate from that the radius of a proton. That's how it's connected mathematically. You know? Very cool. So this is the full abstract. I couldn't fit the full abstract in the other one with the title there too. Now, I know I could cut and paste and make my own, thing, which I didn't. Actually, that's not the worst idea. I have another place where I do it too, because this one, from the Origin of Human Chromosome number 2 article over at pnas.org. Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So this one shows the title, and then I have this other one that shows the abstract. I can't... it's because I don't spend any of my time on the technology. I should, though. My daughter informs me that the state of user-friendly technology for the average Joe to use this to create whatever he wants to express is getting better and better and better and better. And so it's going to be not that hard for me at some point to illustrate all of these things that I say. I'm just kind of, I do it without props for the most part. I have my few slides, I do. I've been trying to stay away from the slides, though. Except for the backdrop ones like these. I have like about 50 at least. I have my waterfall series and my mushroom series, and this is part of my moon series. I was on the waterfall series. Where was I? Was I here yet? I think I had gotten there. How about this one? I don't think I'd gotten to this one yet. Did I ever? Yeah, I did that one. So anyway, who am I? Who am I, and what are we going to do about this? I don't really know what to do about this, because this is an act of summoning a more distant future to be a less distant future is what I'm looking at. I would like to see real movement in some of these areas before I pass away. Now, I've promised the girls at least another 30 years, and I'm hoping for another 40 to 50 years. But I will have to get in touch with some more physical cell coherence technology to make that sort of thing happen. I mean, it's reasonable that I would live in my 90s. My own father is 98 years old at the moment and still alive. So he is past 98 and a half too. So we'll see how that goes. I could probably easily make it into my 90s, but I'd like to make it past 100. He's promised us 112. We'll see how far he'll get. There's issues there, as you might guess. So who am I? Who am I? Who are we, and where are we going? I believe that our future is, let's just assume that we're heading for a sustainable one. I like to assume that because the alternative is just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. It's sort of like the way I have lived my whole life. I have had a kind of an internal creed that didn't really have many words involved. It was just kind of a set point, a resting assumption. You know, I didn't know the details of the world, but what I assumed was this was the only thing I had faith in. That it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We've all been at this for a long time. It must be all right because the alternative is just not acceptable. I am not going to go mentally into a world where life is not okay. Where it's an abomination of some sort that and should not have been, or evil rules, or any of those kinds of things, that or where it's just exactly like that. It's not acceptable to me to imagine a population of 8 billion people representing something that might soon go extinct. Do you know how ugly the stories are going to be that come out of such a thing? I actually don't believe in a world as ugly as that. I believe that we all have an inner being that is guiding us, that vibrational aspect of our cosmic anatomy. And when I say it that way, it almost sounds like, just another sense of yours, of your physical body. Born of your physical body. It is connected to your physical body. It is born of your physical body in a way, but it's actually born of the field itself. And so as the form changes, the field remains, And so that's stable. You are stable. You are made of the field itself. And it can achieve any form. It can go into any form. It's like a cosmic... this is so stupid. Etch-a-sketch? It's not... It's kind of like that, but only way, way, way more complex. It's almost like cosmic Play-Doh, but it's not that either. You are inside of... You are... Who am I? Who am I? Know that we are one. There is no us and them. There really, really isn't. And I don't care how obviously there is an us and them. Look at those crazy people over there. They believe nonsense and they're acting destructively. Obviously they are them and we are us. Come on. Well, okay. But the problem is that there is another frame that higher than that, where that actually isn't true, and we need each other, and we are a single organism, and when we fight with one another, we are in a kind of a state of autoimmune disorder. So, do I want to show any of my physical slides? I was just saying that I don't use my slides. I can go through the rest of my waterfall series. I like this one. I have to be careful with this one because this one has sound with it. And if I turned it on, then the sound would be there. I don't think I could hear it though, but the recording will pick it up. Yeah, I can't hear it. I can't hear it. But I bet you can. Can you hear that? Yeah. Well, I'm going to turn that off. And then we have the Crystal Pool, Peaceful Forest Waterfall, Green River Waterfall, Big Blue Waterfall, New Waterfall. That was my latest one, I guess, that I did. This one also has sound. What is this sound? Fun. That's the end of this one I call Swirling Fishes. The problem with this one is the way it loops. So it loops and then it jerks right there. There it did that. So you can't play that one over and over and over again. It's distracting. The other ones, you don't notice the looping so much, so you can keep them going. Then I have this one. This is my last watery one, I believe. I have some in the snowy section that are wet also. This one has some splashing going on, and then there's a funny little cockatoo over here in the corner on the right-hand side. Anyway, so where are we with all of this? It's just, so it is not actually, the beauty of all this is that you don't have to you don't have to attack this from the outside. Nobody has to attack this from the outside. I don't have to, even though I understand this in a really big way, it's not my responsibility, my job, nor could I even be expected to, from the outside, go sally forth and try to force a change in the situation that we've got. That just doesn't even make any sense. And so my whole position, it's something I can be effective at. It fits into my lifestyle. My job can be to help raise consciousness so that because my thesis is that when we understand who we are, all of this is going to just naturally just happen. Our understanding who we are is going to be us understanding the energy source of all things. And then nobody's going to be able to keep the lid on this any longer. It's not going to be anything that we have to, try to fight to get out. The fact that because I'm nobody, and yet here I am, privy to all this information and have access to all of this equipment, this technology, my OBS studio, which was absolutely free, and my, the internet, which I pay for, yes. My computer and my setup, yeah, I've been collecting it over the last few years. All my microphone and my lighted keyboard and all of this stuff. I have a webcam too, which I don't usually use anymore. I used to use it all the time in my recordings, but then I had to, be presentable every morning. Now I can do my recordings at 4:30 in the morning after having just rolled out of bed. And besides that, I don't need you to look at what I look at like. I don't need you to see my face. Now, what a lot of people are doing, I see Bashar doing it now, animating videos. So you have an avatar that's you, and then you take your audio and you animate it. And at some point, I will probably do that, or somebody will do it for me, or right now I am a team of one producing this show. So I am everything. I am producer, I am director, I am writer, I am actor, I am everything. I am all the parts. And what am I actually doing? I don't think too much about this show. I just, it's stream of consciousness. I'm getting better and better and better at putting together non-resistant thought from an assumptive place of everything's all right, everything's proceeding just fine, whatever it looks like. The condition is not the primary thing, people. We're so materially fixated. And our culture has done that to us. Our science-based, I started the show by saying that the reason that happened is because back when science and religion split from one another, they sort of had to. For a while, religion tried to keep a lid on it, tried to keep Galileo down, and tried to keep everything under wraps. But it wasn't possible to keep the truth secret forever. The church had made some unreasonable stands that they shouldn't have. They claimed to know everything about everything, that they understood everything about the physical world, and that this is what the heavens were like, and they had a description of the heavens, perfect concentric spheres, And so that implied that the that the Earth was the center, and then there'd be a layer out, and a layer out, and a layer out, and a layer out, and whatever. Well, that's not exactly how it is. And Galileo, when he invented the telescope, put his telescope on the moons of Jupiter and recognized every night he went out and logged where they were and how they were moving. And it became obvious real quickly that they were not revolving around the Earth along with everything else. They were revolving around Jupiter. And that Jupiter wasn't revolving around the Earth, that it's revolving around the sun. There's all the kinds of things. And it's because the church got too full of itself. Now, I can see, actually, now that I understand the shape of the actual shape of the universe, the ether, the plasma, the holographic Planck field of black holes, the zero-point energy, and the Planck oscillators, and all of that. Now that I understand that structure, I can almost see what they might have been drawing from, a wisdom from way back in the day that probably was absolutely correct. But the church was, they were claiming to know things that they didn't know about the physical world. And they tried to suppress the scientists, the early scientists who were noticing that the physical world was not exactly what the church was saying that it was. And so at some point, the way they continued on, they didn't absorb one another. They didn't conglomerate with one another. They just said, okay, we'll keep studying the spiritual and you have a ball. Just go look at the material world all you want. That's your department. And so that's all science looks at is, and so what does that mean? It means that they're looking at it from a paradigm view of the materiality being a priori or primary, being what you focus on. That's what you put in the center of your focus is the matter. Well, I think that that's creating a problem because, I'm going to use this slide and then I'm going to go right back to a scene. This slide right here, this one is your two selves, and think of them as points of focus. Apertures of focus. Now your where was I? I was at the Overwater Bungalow. Do I care? Your consciousness is an aperture of focus. In actual fact, it is two apertures of focus. One is your source mind, your larger self, your oversoul, your broader perspective. Some people would call this perspective the G word. I have a hard time with that one because I don't want to invoke definitions in your head that aren't what I mean when I say it. At this moment, I'm meaning a literal aperture of focus. Think of it as your mind's eyes aperture of focus. Well, you actually have two. One comes from source, and the other one is you, your conventional self, your physical self, your physical mind, your brain and your skull kind of, you can touch yourself kind of you. That's one of the apertures of your focus. The other one is source, your source mind's aperture of focus. Now, I maintain that this point, this mind's eye point, is your plug. It's the plug of your identity is right here. It's where your I am is. It's why we ask the question, who am I? When you plug that plug into the material side, something weird happens. you get stuck in because your I am actually belongs in the formless side. It belongs in the other side. But since we have been trained to put material in the center of our focus for the last 350 years, or however long you count, it all depends on who you count from the beginning of when exactly that peaceful split, where the church quit fighting the scientists and just said, go off and look at the physical world all you want. We'll just keep singing, hymns to praise God and study Jesus and all that kind of stuff. Since we put the materiality in the center of the aperture of that focus, some funny things happen. One is you get really uncomfortable with the thought of change, because when you put that it's like your anchor. It's like your sense of all rightness. And it needs to be plugged into a place that doesn't change. That's why it's so unsettling when you plug that thing in to a place where it's material. Now you get really uncomfortable with change, because your very sense of being, your sense of identity is associated with the form that's passing, because it's the fifth law of the universe. If you take them in the order that Bashar gave them to me, the fifth law of the universe is everything changes, except for the laws. Everything changes except for the ether itself, the Plancks themselves, that oscillating the structure of the universe itself does not change. Now the structure of this universe, obviously it changes, because stars go nova, and they wink out of sight, and that planet gets disintegrated by whatever. Things change. The structure of the universe changes, but the structure of the universe doesn't change. The formless, the Plancks themselves, the field itself, the quantum field, the holographic, the paradigm, the setup, whatever. So, where do you plug your I am into? Who am I? Who am I? Well, I am two selves. And I hate to do this, but I'm going to go back to the picture. This was one of my favorite pictures for the longest time, but then I'd get kind of lazy, and I'd let it just sit there. We'll go to this one for a minute. What that other picture illustrates is your two minds. You have two minds. And one, the wide open aperture, is in total allowance and without defense, is just reading reality. Where are the atoms? How are they moving? What is their temperature? It's reading all of that information. You are the one who's giving the whole thing meaning. Not just you in your physical form. Your source self is giving. You're a team. You're a team. You can't really separate any of it. But don't be dismayed by the changing form, because you are the formless coming into whatever form you prefer. And when you don't understand that that's what you're doing, then you do it by default. And your default setting has you locking into your negative side and not recognizing that that's not you. I don't care if you're Vladimir Putin. I don't care if you're Kim Jong-un. I don't care if you're Donald Trump. I don't care if you're your brother-in-law, your neighbor, your boss, whoever you, Nazi. I don't care who you have interpreted as being some sort of negative creature out there. There is no us and them. And as a human being, we are a wholeness. We are a family. We are an integer. We are an integral wholeness. And we're going to have to come to that realization. Now, the reason that we're fighting so hard with each other right now is that energy is scarce. The will and the imagination and the information about things is everywhere, but the energy to do things is scarce. And the reason that that is so is because from a pure energy standpoint, we're still burning fossil fuel instead of plugging into the almost infinite supply of energy that source energy would be if we truly understood how to do that. And we ought to really throw ourselves into a number of projects, conquer source energy, conquer gravity, find the plans to over Unity devices that have already been created. That would help. It will inject literal energy into our system that you're not going to believe what's going to happen when it happens. And all of the human energy, all of our children, all of the goodness and the love and the non-resistant forward-thrusting energy that is. Now, it needs to be guided, but it needs to be guided lovingly and connect this forward energy now with the realization of what's been happening in the movie. We are a movie. Did you know that? We're all players on the stage of a movie set that's been going on since history began. I think it's actually been going on a little bit longer than that, but I don't know what you call the movie before the movie. The pre-movie, the prequel to the movie, you know? I don't know where you want to start. Do you want to start where we were genetically modified some 200,000 years ago? You can add some other things about what might have happened. You might be able to point to alien technology, actual alien technology within us. This, I slightly showed this for a different reason. This is the article that shows that these geneticists, they studied human chromosome number 2, and after doing the sequencing on both sides of what it looks like, there's telomere material in the center, and the sequences look like this on the top and this on the bottom, and what they conclude is that it's two chromosomes that's been fused together. And not only that, the two that were fused together were ape chromosomes. And they gave this fusion has given rise to human chromosome number 2. That's what this is saying. And as far as I know, now Greg Braden's got his eye on this one. He's the one that sort of directed our attention this way. Here's a slide from one of his presentations. See, origin of human chromosome number 2, and he claims that human chromosome number 2 is responsible for 76% of the volume of your neocortex, which is that layer of mind that makes you human. It's that layer of brain material that allows you to have a resonant, that allows you to take a thought that then you can measure its resonance against your source mind and decide how valid or how big the frame of validity that thought is. That's what your neocortex gives you. It gives you your overview physical mind. That ability to think about yesterday and project tomorrow and imagine things that are not there yet. That's your neocortex. That came from a fusion. That you could imagine, I suppose, that this fusion was accidental or spontaneous. I think it was on purpose. I think somebody did that to us. I find that really interesting. Anyway, So what do I want to say? What do I want to say? Steps of creation. The steps of creation. 1, 2, 3. Step 1, life causes you to ask. Rockets of desire emanate, energy rockets. They're like energy waves emanating from you, that's speaking to the rest of the field around you. But it's not just speaking to the rest of the field. Your inner being goes to the farthest most edge of that vibration that you have asked for and sits right there and calls you to that frequency. So you ask, Source answers. But the only way you can receive the answer that Source is giving you is you got to get off of that negative drum you're banging. You got to get off the negative and get back to who you really are. And then things will occur to you. Thoughts, you'll be inspired to action, or a thought will drop into your head, or you'll impulse to... It's only your negative mind that's stopping you from being everything you want, that's stopping the world from being everything that it can be. It's our negative self. We've got to understand who our negative self is, where it comes from, what the consequence of unleashing it onto the quantum field is, and why. Why it's that way. So you quit judging the demons in yourself and others and just get on with the business of alignment, so that we can live in a more peaceful, more beautiful, more blessed, more harmonious, loving, playful, dancing world, because I know that we can. The biggest problem we've got going from a practical standpoint in this moment is our energy source. We need to get off of fossil fuel. And we can get off of fossil fuel. And, you keep thinking, the United States Department of Energy, they're the ones responsible for that, because it's all a community grid, and so it's all a collective effort, and so I've got nothing to do with this, so what do I know about energy? What do I know about energy? I don't know anything about energy. But I do know what it means to be a human being, and I do know what our energy system, what it's doing to us, how it's making us compete in a cutthroat kind of way with one another. And our children do not have the currency they need to shelter and feed themselves. In a world where there's plenty of space and plenty of elements, and actually human beings are capable of growing plenty of food. And we can do it in a more diverse way too. We've got our centralized food production systems, and we can modify this. We can start clicking them down into more diverse as our systems of communication and distribution and all the areas are going to be more and more capable of coming up with their own unique products. So if I have all the energy I need, I can take 50 of my best friends, go out into spaces that were heretofore not settlable because you couldn't get the power and the land, you couldn't get the roads out there, you couldn't get the power out there, the power lines, the grid extended out that way, It doesn't matter anymore, though. If you can pull energy out of anything, anywhere, if you can pull it out of anywhere, then it doesn't matter. You can live at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You can live at the top of the Himalayas. You can live anywhere. So you take your 50 people and you go out into the woods, and you, using your clean, free, unlimited energy, you create your pod shell structures. They might be domes, whatever is really easy to construct. And you don't have to do it you don't have to bring lumber. We just need to understand how this works. And then our future is so bright. I know, actually, the scenario I was going to really quickly talk about is all of these different groups. You know, say I've got my 50 or 150 people group, and it's my tribe, you know, and it's a commune, and we're all in this together, and we all have this note. We understand who we are, and we understand source energy, and we understand how we are co-creating with the biofield around us, and using this spirit and this knowledge and this information and this unlimited clean free energy paradigm, as well as my conquering of gravity. So now my equipment does not have to roll specifically directly over every pebble and stone on the ground. You can fly above it as you move around your spaces. We've conquered gravity, and you have all the power that you need. Now you can go off wherever, and you can maybe in that space make the most amazing, tasty, delicious goat cheese, you know, from your flock of amazing goats. Maybe they're mohair goats too, and so your little tribe has it. You produce the best goat cheese, you produce the best mohair, you produce, you know, whatever, and you put it out on the distribution marketplace that is humanity's circulatory system and distribution system. You trade your stuff, and back to you comes iPads or something that you need, that, you know, whatever. You make rules amongst each other. Things like, if you're going to build equipment that we all need and we all use, you need to, first of all, any kind of planned obsolescence should be punishable by some sort of intensive rehabilitation. You're sentenced to like 2 months at the humanity spa, you know, doing meditations and being really indoctrinated with the loving, connected spirit of all of humanity. That's what you're sentenced to. And everybody should do that anyway. There should be some sort of facility where everybody gets to go do that. You know, everybody gets to do it initially, and then periodically you can have your refresher spa course at the main facility that connects all of humanity with its own spirit. How would that be? That'd be cool. Then now you're sent back to your industry, and now you don't sneak in the planned obsolescence anymore, because I own a perfectly delightful iPhone that is too easy to break, for one thing. I think they do that on purpose too. You could make that thing really indestructible if you wanted to, but they don't want you to. They also want it to be out of date really quickly, because they don't want you to own it for longer than 2 years. And it uses all kinds of rare earth materials that, you know, there's a reason why they call it rare earth, because it's not common. Anyway, people shouldn't be doing that. They really should not be doing that. And the only reason that they're doing that is because we're all operating in a paradigm of scarcity and separation. And we don't understand that the real, true paradigm is absolute, ultimate connection and abundance beyond our wildest imagination. So let's plug our imagination in and get some of this abundance going before I die. You know, I've only got 30, 40, 50 years left. I would like to see some of this in true motion within the next 10 years, and not just, oh, there's another electric car plug. You know, it's a step, I guess, but it's fractional. Fractional. People, we need to understand who we are. We are all in this together. And if we're going to make it to the 22nd century, we need to think that way. We need to understand our vibrational self is primary. So put the vibration of it. It's hard to say emotions. How do you put the emotions in the center? Put the vibrational value of it in the center. Put the vibration of what does it feel like? Does it feel like negative emotion? Because if it does, then you've got to understand what that means is that there is a larger frame that's not bad. There's a shorter frame. You don't like that condition. That's fine. You don't have to like it. You can even want to change that condition. And yet, in spite of that condition, you need to find where you're okay anyway. Because that's who you really are. A you that is okay no matter what the physical condition. Because you are the formless. You are making the physical condition. Why would the physical condition concern you in any way? You know, you are the formless. The form is what you do by virtue of your focus, your attention, the frequency you're on, all of that. It's all you. You are the one who is directing your life, your journey, your vehicle, your starship, if you will, guiding it through the universe, the multiverse of your lifetimes of experience. Now, I say that, but there is a poignancy. There is a poignancy because even though I am a forever being, this being that I am in this moment, I will only ever be this one once. And so if I have loved her, if I have appreciated how hard she tries, and I appreciate her willingness to be on this physical earth and put herself in the position of feeling negative emotion and feeling the loss and the tragedies and the drama of this life, Yes, part of me goes on forever. But this self that I am only this once. And so cherish who you are. Cherish who you are. So anyway, I see I'm at an hour and 52 minutes. And I've done a fairly good job of adding most of it in. I can see a few things that I still have not quite gotten to. If you have been a fan of, if you're my fan from way back, you'll recognize the few things I have left on the slides that I'm not going to get to them today. I'm just going to talk about just in general. I didn't do the emotional guidance scale, although we talked about it. I didn't do it specifically. The 4 general states of being, which represents your accelerator and your braking system. When you go specific, that's your accelerator. When you pull back to the general, that's your braking system. And you only want to go fast when you're in the positive, because that's the only time that you're in true tandem with your full binary system. Otherwise, you're going to trip. If you go negative and then try to go fast, the problem is that you are saddled to an enormous vortex of pure positive energy. And so your attempting to go negative is not going to go smooth. Your life is not going to be in order. It is going to be literally in disorder. So I didn't do those slides. Let's see. I haven't talked about cymatics for a while. The reason I do that one is just to tag people into this recognition that we are living in a vibrational universe. It is vibrational. Those vibrations are really, really, really high in places, and they're creating this illusion that we call the physical manifested universe, but it's all vibration in form. It's vibrational. And the cymatics, looking at cymatic patterns kind of, helps you go, oh, yeah, I see that. I guess I see that. And then often I bring up the 5 kleshas. which are thought to be the root causes of suffering from the Buddhist philosophy. And then I often end with my Kafka and the doll story, which illustrates how the form changes. Our let's see, let's just go to the quote. This is the moral of the story. Everything you love will probably be lost, but in the end, love will return in another way. And it's up to you to open up your heart and spot it, because it's not inherently contained in the essence of the object itself. The love that girl felt for her doll was not contained in the doll itself. So that's what the meaning of that one is. And then this one I leave it sitting there. The spiral, the original spin. Original spin. That's what connects us all. There is a spin that connects us all. And then there's our individual one that we are in charge of ourselves. And we need to get those two spins into alignment with one another in order that our lives have, to our own hands, all of the cooperative components to our own desires, to our own ventures, to our own projects and life experience, when we get into alignment with the spin that we're all part of. Anyway. So with that, I think I'm going to leave you, because I'm at 1 hour and 56 minutes. I do not want to go over 2 hours. Tomorrow, we're going to go play golf, 9 holes of golf, early in the morning. Later in the year, golf isn't going to affect that, because the light will come later and later. And so we don't have to get out there so early to be the first to tee off. But we'll do that tomorrow, and then I'll do a show on Saturday, and then Sunday we're going to be waking up at Isleta. We're going to go see the Gypsy Kings on Saturday night. It's my husband and my 24th wedding anniversary. Woohoo! So we're going to go have some fun. So let's see, what's today? Thursday. You won't see me tomorrow. You will see me Saturday morning, and then you won't see me Sunday morning. And then we'll see what happens Monday, because I may go out and play golf again on Monday. You may not see me again until see me tomorrow and then Tuesday. Well, we'll just let it play out. In any case, we're all in this together. Do your best. Do your very best. The better that we all do, the better we all do. So I'm rooting for you every step of the way. This is going to be fun. And remember, only the love is real. Only the love is real. And so until next time, may the source be with you.